Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we meet again and we're going to continue the story of the creation of the earth. And we have covered actually for the first, let's say, close to about 4 billion years, right? We have the first one is, let me show you here. We have covered the Hadean period, right? Just a quick recap. Hadean period is when the earth was very, very hot. Temperatures above 1000 degrees Celsius, estimated like that. Molten lava all over the earth. There was no solid mass on earth's surface. Then after that, slowly the temperature started to drop. And then after that, what the scientists said that the earth entered the Archean period, in which the earth was a watery planet. Okay, suddenly there was a lot of water because temperature dropped below 100 degrees Celsius. So earth was covered with vast oceans, hardly any land mass, right? And then suddenly, not suddenly, like over time, then land started to appear from the ocean. So there was ocean first, there was water first, and then after that there was this land mass. And actually, you know, if you can remember, right, way back when we discussed about the Islamic what do you call it, tradition and story, or Islamic narration on creation, and it's based on not from hadith, but from, well, sayings of attributed to companions, all right, but suspected to come from the Rabbi Ka'b al-Ahbar or other Christian or Jewish rabbis, Christian priests or Jewish rabbis that who embrace Islam in the early parts of Islamic history during time of the companions, and then they narrated and they shared with the Muslims all those stories that they knew from their scriptures. And so somehow or other, those stories get into our tradition and being reported from one book to another, from one scholar to another in the books of tafsir, until it become like something like taken for granted that that is actually what actually happened according to Islamic sources, but actually not, right? It is actually based on stories not attributed to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Well, that story says that everything starts with water, and then after that, land mass started to appear. The water started to part, and then land mass started to appear. That was inside the tradition, and that was actually what geologists and paleontologists suspected during the Archean period. Right? Of course, there was a lot of land mass first. There was no water, but then water started to appear, right, suspected from under the earth. And we believe as Muslim that the water came from under the earth, because Allah says that in Surah An-Nazi'at, akhraja minha ma'aha wa mar'aha. He gush forth the water from the earth itself. It can refers to springs and what do you call it, wells and whatever water from underground, but it can also refer from the early creation, because that story talks about the first creation of the earth. So whatever it is, right, the water started to appear and then started to cover, suspected to cover, not confirmed, suspected to cover the whole of the earth. But then after that, the water started to recede a bit, or the landmass started to get higher and higher. Just like now, you know, when we have volcanoes under the sea, right? So the volcano started to build up the landmass until it breaks through the surface of the sea and it forms an island. Hawaii is a set of islands. There's a very good example. It comes from a volcano. It's actually the top of volcano. Mount Kia, right, in Hawaii. Those are just top of volcanoes. The rest of the volcanoes are underwater, and it's very, very high mountain, higher than the Everest, taller than the Everest. This mountain that forms the island Hawaii. Okay, anyway, right, a landmass started to appear. There was the Archean period, and then after that we went to the Proterozoic period, where we have the simple form, the what do you call it, the simple life form started to appear during the Proterozoic period. And then all this way, right, because it's one of the longest period, okay, the Proterozoic period. So we have 1, 2, 3 periods of Earth creation. Then after that, we have the last part is, we call it as the post-Cambrian period. Okay, we're going to talk about Cambrian period at this juncture here at 542 million years. So during this Proterozoic period, a lot of activities. Temperature started to go down, carbon dioxide started to go down, oxygen levels started to go up. So plants started to appear, and then there was more complexities in life, right? Cells started to become multicellular life, and so therefore life started to appear on planet Earth. Of course, everything, as a Muslim, we believe that everything is with Allah's direction and according to Allah's will, and has been this written in Lawhul Mahfuz that things will happen during this period. Okay, so when we talk about things appear naturally, the word naturally means for Muslim, right? Yes, naturally for the scientists means that physically it happens like that, but for us, anything happens with Allah's will and Allah's power. So what they call it naturally for us Muslim means that Allah decreed that to happen. It is according to Allah's decrees. So during that Proterozoic period, things started to appear naturally, right? Cells started to evolve, becoming more and more complex. We're still not sure how the first cell came about, how the first DNA came about. It can be through, soil, right? Because we know that there are certain type of soil, right, that can become the can attract the building blocks of DNA. And somehow or other they can form together to form a simple chain of DNA. But still it is speculation, we do not know. Okay, but it comes from soil, it comes from earth. So then we're going to cover today about the, this part here. Oh, where is it? Subhanallah, the Proterozoic period, right? Again, Proterozoic period is from the Greek word proto, means before. Rozo is ero. Proterozo is life, so period, right? Rozoic period. So before life period, Proterozoic period or era. Okay, now during the Proterozoic period, right, there was this, great geological movement. Well, the geological movement have started before, during the Hadean period, but during the Proterozoic period, because landmass started to appear, right, and there was the several, global ice age that lasted for hundreds of millions of years, not hundreds of years, okay, not thousands of years, hundreds of millions of years, not even 1-2 million years. Okay, our difference in time between us and the Prophet Muhammad SAW is just 1,400 years, 1,440 years lah. Okay, but they're just 1,400 years, not even 2,000 years. But we are talking about ice age that lasts for hundreds of millions of years. So that was the great ice age. So Earth was covered for hundreds of millions of years with ice. Not sure, might be the whole Earth, might be just 90% of the Earth, 95% of the Earth, because the equatorial region might not be covered with ice because of direct sunlight to it. We're not sure about that, right? It's still just based on speculation. But if you look at the map, right, this is the map of the world right now. You know, when I was young, I would look at the map, I always wonder, how come there is this pattern here? Right? Just like a jigsaw puzzle. This is going in, but this is bulging out. So if you actually can fit the South America continent to the African continent, it just fit quite nicely. And you can fit the North American continent to the European continent. And you look at this, the Arabian Peninsula, it's just very nice to look at the tip of Somalia. It's just, you know, it's just like being a jigsaw puzzle covered like that. So it is very interesting. And you look at Australia and you look at Papua New Guinea here, or New Guinea here. This Papua New Guinea, and the other one is Irian Jaya. So it just can fit in inside there. And you look at New Zealand and Australia, you can just push New Zealand and can fit nicely on the eastern coast of Australia, where you have Sydney here. And Tasmania, you can fit there. And Madagascar, you can fit here. Subhanallah. So everything is quite nice. Only the India is jutting out here, and there's nothing here to fit in. But you have this, the Everest is here. So you have the Himalayas, it's the chain of mountain here. So it is as if like China and India that is merging there. Of course, when we learn geography, we know that there's a plate tectonic. So you have that Indian plate and then you have that Eurasian plate meshed together. So you have that, what do you call it, the Himalayan chain of mountains here. You look at Japan, right? It can fit here, right? This one can fit there. So everything can fit together. So there must be something that caused this landmass to break apart. Okay, it has been a wonder, always a wonder. But then science came in, scientists started to discover, right? And they used all the tools of science that they knew, and then they became creative. They created new tools of science. They checked the soil composition, the nature of the rocks on this African continent and Southern American continent, and somehow they found out that these two continents are actually the same. The composition is the same. The continent and the continent is the same. So it is as if that this whole continent was once and then it broke apart. When did it break apart? Again, right? It's just a bit of investigative and speculative, what do you call it, idea. It's not based on, irrefutable proof. Okay, it is still open for discussion. So it actually, for them, right, most of these paleontologists and geologists, they agreed that somehow or other there was a huge land mass, okay, billions of years ago or hundreds of millions of years ago, during the Proterozoic period, maybe about 1 billion years ago, right? There were several, actually, not just one landmass, there were several land masses, right? Huge land mass. So in fact, the whole of the earth, the whole of this surface of the earth can be divided into two, water and also land. And all the land converge into one huge land mass. And they call it as Pangaea, okay? Pangaea. So you can see the Pangaea here, right? This is just, again, some ideas lah, right? Again, it's open for discussion, but they've agreed that all these landmasses were together. So this Pangaea, right, during the Permian period, which is about 250 million years ago, this landmass started to crack open. Okay, why it cracked open? Because of our, the nature of the earth itself, the nature of the earth crust. Earth crust is not one solid crust. Earth crust is just like jigsaw puzzle, right, fixed together and floating on a fluid lava. Fluid lava. So this fluid lava, we call it as the magma, right? It's moving under us. It provides current. Everything that is not solid, semi-liquid, it must move. Okay, just like tar. Tar, look at the roadside, right? It consists of tar and also pebbles. So that tar, right, because a lot of tar being covered on the pebble on the road itself, it becomes actually, strictly speaking, all this road made of tar, they are not solid. They are liquid, actually. Why? Because they can move. And that's why when you have lots of movement, you can see that actually the tar being pushed aside, right? There's a harm there, there's a harm there, because why? Because a lot of tar moving on that surface. So it compressed this area and pushed the tar up there. So it's actually liquid. Okay. So because of this, magma is liquid, still moving, and then you have all these crusts, right? They are interlocked with each other. Not just interlocked, they just exist side by side with each other. So they move, and then they move slowly, right? About, let's say, 1 centimeter in a year, right? So if in 10 years you have 10 centimeters, 70 years you have 70 centimeter, 100 years you have a 100 meter, 100 centimeter. So 1 centimeter is 1 meter, and that's where when the rocks that lock these two continents together cannot hold them back together because of the sheer movement, right? This 1 meter is still trying to move here and this trying to move there. So the lock just give way. So you have that earthquake. So everything is moving, and this is Allah's decree to make earth a livable place. Livable place. It is something where you have creatures on there. It is something that renew itself. So earthquakes, volcanoes, they are manifestation of Allah's rahmah, actually. Manifestation of Allah's love to creatures on earth, so that this earth can continue to become habitable for its residents, especially for us. But for us, of course, we take it as one earthquake is a disaster, one volcano is a disaster. But you look at the overall picture, it's actually something that is a rahmah from Allah, so a blessing from Allah. So anyway, earth crust moved, right? And therefore this Pangaea, this big landmass, it broke up. It broke up into smaller landmass. And then about 200 million years ago, estimated because of this is just because of the calculation, the rate of expansion and so forth. So you have started to have this, they call it as Gondwana, right? Then it's going to see the initial, the primitive South American continent and the primitive African continent started to break up. So initially it was one big landmass, we start break up all the way there. And then we have the Greenland here, started to go down. That's why Greenland, right, it is a very, subhanAllah, Allah make the Greenland inaccessible to most human, because Greenland is actually the treasure trove of Earth history. You want to know about Earth history, you go to Greenland, you drill down, and then you can find from the core itself, millions, hundreds of millions of years of Earth history. And that's how we know it, right? It's being preserved. Imagine if Greenland is in Middle East, you're finished, right? Because so much human activities over there, fighting, explosion, right? Drilling for oil, this and that. And then human civilizations built upon cities, upon cities, upon cities. It's incredible. No, you just look at Egypt, Cairo itself. It's cities built upon cities upon cities. So you drill down, you can find layers and layers of other cities. First, you have the ancient Egyptian, and then you have the, what they call it, the Greek Empire, and then the Romans, and then after that you have the Islamic Empire. Then after that you have the modern Egyptian civilization, and so forth, so forth. It is a bunch of activities. It will destroy any prehistoric, or they call it the ancient geological formation of that place itself. So Allah used Greenland as some sort of like a museum for humans to discover how this earth came about. So Greenland, right, broke away from Gondwana and moved down, right, to the equator. And he moved down to the equator, and that is actually a rahmah from Allah, a blessing from Allah. Because if it moved to the equator, sorry, it moved to the north pole, south pole, sorry, because if it moved to the equator, then there'll be a lot of animals, trees, plants, civilizations there. So it cannot become a museum. So when it moved to the South Pole, because South Pole is basically cold, right, and ice covered, so you have a very thick layer of ice that somehow rather preserve all those historical records of Earth, how Earth formed for billions of years and hundreds of millions of years ago. So Greenland started to move to South Pole, and until now it is covered with ice. Unfortunately, we are causing the ice to melt, right? That's a very sad thing, because once all this ice in North and South Pole started to melt, and if all of them melt, right? If all of this ice in both poles melt, then the sea level will rise to about 70 meters high. That is enough to submerge the whole of Singapore, except for maybe Bukit Timah. Bukit Timah is 125 meters high. The highest point on Earth, the highest point on Singapore is Bukit Timah, it's 125 meters. So you have about 50 meters of Singapore left. The rest covered with ice. All these ice melts, and we are moving towards the direction. If, let's say, if the whole of humanity, including the whole of governments in Singapore, in this world, right, do not take action and reduce their production of carbon dioxide and methane to the air, you will have in about 100 years from now, 2121. It's a very nice year, 2121, not 2021, 2121. Singapore will not be around. Finish, right? So we have just a few decades left. If we don't do any, if the whole governments on earth do not take action on climate change. So then because of all this movement, and then we have our map right now. So all this happened actually, it started actually during the Proterozoic period, and then it continues to the post-Cambrian period. Okay, now we're going to move on to the, what do you call it, the climate. Now, this is on the geography itself. Now, talking about geography, talking about landmass, right, on Earth, the position of landmass actually influence climate, influence, what do you call it, our weather system. Why do we have monsoon right now? We have the northeast monsoon and southwest monsoon, some sort like that, and then the wind started to go this way and blow that way. Why we have that? Because we have this landmass, and we have this, what do you call it, here, the Himalayan chain of mountains that they actually block the movement of the air. The air always move in the according to the equatorial region, right? From here, from east to west, because the earth, sorry, from west to east, because the earth moves from east to west. No, sorry, it's the other way around, right? The earth rotates from west to east. Our perception is that earth, the sun rises from the east. Actually, the earth is moving, rotating from west to east. So that's why we see the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. So the wind also moves from the west to the east, but then it's blocked by landmass here and there, and it becomes complex, and therefore we have loss of air currents on the Earth atmosphere. So landmass, if you alter the landmass, then you alter the weather system. If there is no Himalayan mountain here, if there's no chain of mountain here, then we do not going to have any monsoon, and there's not going to be any air that bring moisture from the temperate region to the equatorial region, and therefore we're not going to have a rainforest here. There's not going to be much water falling on the equatorial region, so not much forest covering here. But we have a landmass here that blocks the movement of the air. And so the air goes up, blocked by the Himalayan mountains, and then it forms rain, and then therefore there are snows on top of the chain of mountain here, and the snow melts. And when the snow melts, they form rivers. And they form huge rivers. Subhanallah. This just small piece of land here, it provides food for more than a quarter, no, we call it a quarter of human population. Let's say about 2.5 billion humans. They actually, their life depends on this Himalayan chain of mountains. Because why? Because Himalayan chain of mountains, they stop the movement of the air, right? And therefore the moisture-laden air, right, the moisture-heavy air trapped there, stopped by the mountains there, becomes cold, and then drop as snow, and then the snow melts, right? And the snow melts and form water, and the water form rivers, and then the rivers started to flow down, and you have massive rivers. For example, the Indus River flowing through Pakistan and supplies the what do you call it? The rice basket for world population, right? And all this rice plantation around here, because the river carries life-giving substances for those what do you call it, plantations and so forth. We have Indus River here. In fact, one of the earliest civilizations, we have the Harapan Harapan civilization, not Pakatan Harapan, right? Got the Harapan civilization that started to exist almost at the same time as the Mesopotamian civilization over here, but they disappeared. So one of the earliest civilization here. Then you have the Yangtze River flowing through China, and then you have the Yellow River flowing through China, massive river, right? And it supplies life. So all the plantations, all the food, right, cultivations, everything, right, being supplied by these huge two rivers that flows through China. China becomes a civilization, and a huge civilization, thanks to that two rivers. Without that two rivers, China would be just another barren land. And then you have another river flowing here. We have the Ganges River flowing from the Himalayan mountain right to Bangladesh, bring life right to all these people here on northern part of India. And so you have all this rice cultivation here, right, and become the basket for human consumption, human rice there. And then we have another river that flows from Himalayan and all the way towards Thailand and also Vietnam. We call it the Mekong River. One of the huge river actually originated from the Himalayan mountain, passes through Burma, right? Passes to Bangladesh, of course, and then to Burma and all the way down Thailand, and then after that to Vietnam. Okay. So this is the, what you call it, the life-giving part of the Himalayan mountains. And it is worrying right now because the ice are melting over here. Weather patterns are changing because of rising climate, global temperature, climate change. And so therefore water started to, now water started to flow heavily down, but then it become a trickle because not much ice left for the water to melt. And so therefore the river will started to dry up. And when the river starts to dry up, there goes our food. So scientists said if we don't do something about climate change, a quarter of human population will go hungry, will starve, because not much food left to support all of us. So many people, millions, hundreds of millions of people will die out of starvation and hunger in the future. So climate change is something that's very, very serious. It's more serious than all other issues combined together. The Afghanistan issue is just a blip in its history. Of course, right now it is a crisis. For us, it's a crisis, but it's just a blip in human history. It will come. It's just a few months, few weeks, and a few months, and a few years, then gone. But climate change will last for decades, okay? And it affects many people. So that is something that we have to bear in mind. Okay, so that is about the landmass. Now let's talk about the, what do you call it, the temperature change, right, according to the ice core that they drill in the Iceland. And I found out from that ice core, of course, a lot of techniques that they use is beyond us. All this, how the techniques and then the studies of ice, right? So we just know their conclusion. The conclusion that they got it is that during the Archean period, they cannot go earlier than the Archean period because why? Because there was no water. Hadean period, boy, very difficult period, very difficult era of time to what do you call it, to investigate, because not much rocks left from that Hadean period, that early part of the first billion years of the Earth formation, very hot time. So everything was fluid. So the Archean period covered with water. All right. Then after that, we have this, what do you call it? Proterozoic period. So let me see if I can mute all participants because I can hear some sound. Yeah, okay. All right, somebody accidentally unmute themselves. It's okay. So the Archean period, it was, I mean, estimated to be hot, right? Because there was not much ice there. So the Archean period still, because the heat from the Hadean period moved on to the Archean period for close to 500 million years, right? Then after that, when the Archean period finished, about 2.5 billion years, then it started the Proterozoic period where temperature becomes cold. And so therefore, the, what do you call it, the ice started to, the temperature started to dip below 0 degrees, and you have the ice formation. So this part here, right, this part here is the ice age, and then after that started to melt again. We do not know what caused ice age and what caused it to what caused Earth to exit the ice age and becomes hot for hundreds of millions of years, right? Like close to about 700 million years with no ice on Earth, just water, the whole of ice melted. So the whole of Earth, except for that landmass, right? The high landmass uncovered with water, but the rest covered with water. Then Earth entered again into a very long ice age, close to another 500 million years. So you have another ice age here, right? And then at the end of the Proterozoic period, at what you call it, 445 million years juncture. Now, this is a very important juncture. We call it the Cambrian explosion juncture. Temperature started to rise above the freezing point. So Earth exited from the global ice age after about maybe about 400 to 600 million years, maybe 300, not sure. So then after that, temperature remained high above the freezing point. Then after that, Earth entered into a mini ice age for maybe 100 to 150 million years. Again, it's called about 150 million years, okay? Then after that, it exits again. And then after that, temperature starts to stabilize. And then towards the end of the Paleozoic period, okay, about 445 million years, they entered another ice age. And then Earth exit again and temperature starts to rise all the way. And then about, this is 65 million years is another mark, a very important mark in according to us lah, right? What do you call it as a very important milestone on Earth history, because 65 million years ago, dinosaurs were wiped out by, we believe and suspected, by a huge asteroid about just 10 kilometers big, right? Hit the Earth and destroyed the whole of dinosaur animals. So dinosaur will wipe out 65 million years, and then after that, Earth entered to another ice age. Okay, and then when enter another ice age, this ice age, the Paleozoic ice age, actually continues until now. So we are actually in the middle of an ice age. But like what I shared before, right? Why where we can't perceive any ice age, it is because we are during the interglacial ice age. It means that we are within warm periods of an ice age. So an ice age, right, can be broken up into several warm periods where the global temperature rises above 0 degrees. So we have the ice retreated or the ice melted and been trapped just in the south and north pole and on top of the mountains. But the rest of the Earth, right, are ice-free except during winter. But that actually helps when we are in the interglacial ice age. That actually helps humans to build civilizations. And that is why the earliest civilizations that been recorded in history started about 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, right? And that is actually towards the beginning of the interglacial ice age, because the ice age started about 9,000 to 10,000 years ago, started to warm up, and the ice started to melt, and so therefore land started to appear. So after, let's say, a few thousand years, 1,000 years, and then humans started to move, and they started to build up their capabilities to have that, to organize what do you call it, human human transactions or economy or politics or whatever. Then you have that civilization. They started to organize themselves into a country, some sort of like a country with a leader. So buildings started to appear, villages started to gather together, and then they started to have a more complex, what do you call it, human system, right? And then economic systems started to appear, political systems started to appear. Then you have the first civilization, and first civilization started just about 2,000, maybe 3,000 years after the start of the interglacial ice age. And that's why people thought that, oh, humans started to appear, Nabi Adam started to appear about 6,000, 7,000 years ago. The answer is no. You are being, what do you call it, not deceived, but you are being misled, right, by what we call as interglacial period and humans existence. Human existence has been around since before. We're talking about the Australian Aborigines, right? They have been around in Australia for 50,000 years, 40 to 50,000 years. So if Nabi Adam alayhi salam appeared on earth 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, it means that all those Australian Aborigines, who are humans also, speak and have the capability to think, they are not the descendants of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, and so therefore they are not responsible, they are not endowed with ruh. Of course not, right? They are all endowed with ruh, they are all endowed with taklif, they are all endowed with desires, and they are endowed with responsibilities, because they are all children of Adam. So Nabi Adam alayhi salam appeared way before they appear, all these Aborigines appeared on Australia. And that is why when people talk about civilization started about 6,000 years ago, they are actually, inadvertently, unwittingly, unknowingly, they followed the Judeo-Christian belief system, which is based on the Bible. And the Bible states that the stories of Nabi Adam alayhi salam and this, what they call it, Bishop Ussher calculated. Bishop Ussher was the Christian priest and calculated that, well, Nabi Adam or the Adam appeared on earth about 6,000 years ago. And Jewish calendars started around about, for them, 4,500 years ago. So according to Jewish calendar, this year is here about 4,600 years, not 2,100 years or 200 years or 2,100 years, not 2,000 years, but 4,600 years. That is the year for the Jewish calendar. So that is based on that belief. So we must be wary of not falling into trap of that Judeo-Christian belief. So anyway, we are still in the Ice Age. By right, we should exit this Ice Age, and we should exit this interglacial Ice Age, this interglacial period, and then we should enter back into the normal Ice Age, and temperature started to melt. But because of our activities, climate change, we tend to push that date away, or we might not have another Ice Age coming. So humans have now the capability to change the course of the Earth history. And that is why some scientists, they propose that this age, we call it the Anthropocene age, or the Anthropocene era. From the word anthro. Anthro means human, because of the huge impact of humans, greater than all the dinosaurs that ruled the earth for hundreds of millions of years. Dinosaurs ruled for 200 to 250 million years. Imagine 250 million years dinosaurs were on earth. The impact is not as great as humans that just live on earth less than 10,000 years. Civilization started. Of course, civilization started 6,000 years, but we have not changed much. But our activity for the past 50 years, because of the technological advance, we change the history, the course of the Earth history. That is the impact of humans on Earth itself. What is going to happen in the future, we can predict, but we do not know, right? We can predict outcomes, and the outcome is not that good. We have ignored several warnings. There were several warnings posted since 1992 to 1995 to 2002, warnings posted by researchers, by scientists, that we are killing ourselves. The climate is going to change. You don't do something, it's going to be too late to do it. A lot of warnings. We ignore. China ignore. US ignore. India ignore. Why? Because they all humans, countries, they said we have the right to develop ourselves. And so to have that advanced economic system, we need to become the manufacturer of the earth resources. So we need to destroy the environment to be rich. And so they said, as much as you Americans and Europeans, you destroy the environment before they become rich, so we also have the right to destroy the earth and destroy our environment to become rich. So China, in the pursuit of wealth, right, becomes right now becomes the greatest producer of carbon dioxide on Earth. That's China. 1/4 of carbon dioxide pumped up to the atmosphere came from China. And China said, we're not going to stop until 2030. 2030 is our peak, they said. Then after that, we're going to slowly reduce the carbon dioxide. And that'll be too late, right? They're not going to stop now. They're building more and more coal fire station or coal power station where they burn coal and produce a lot of carbon dioxide, because to produce electricity, to produce the energy, to power their economy. And when they say, yeah, we're going to change the environment, but okay, economy comes first. After that, we're going to think about something about the climate. So then slowly 2030, 2040, 2050, we're going to reduce our production of carbon dioxide. Reduce, not stop. They're going to stop. They say you're going to stop. You're going to be carbon neutral in 2070. By that time, it's going to be too late. It's gone already. But you know, humans are like that, right? Money comes first, everything comes second. Life comes second, right? Climate comes second. Next generation comes second. Animal comes second. Money comes first because we want to be rich. Full stop. So that is the short-sightedness of humans. So anyway, right? These are the ice age. Earth has been having this sort of what you call it, changing of temperatures, right? Accordingly for billions of years. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, you know, this earth is actually a living being. And Allah mentioned that in the Quran, right? When Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, in Surah Fussilat, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala asked these two creatures, Itiya taw'an akurha, come to me, O heavens and earth, whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you come willingly or unwillingly. Taw'an akurha. And both of them answered what? Qalata atayna ta'i'in. We come to you willingly, O Allah. So earth is actually a living being. And there's a concept in science, we call it the Gaia concept, where earth is actually a living organism, something that is beyond what do you call it, normal understanding lah. So if it is a if it is a living being, so now many more scientists believe in that concept. So earth will adjust itself. They have this pesky creature living on me called humans, changing my surface temperature. So I'm going to wipe them up or reduce their numbers. So there will be disasters. There will be some things that Allah SWT will send that will reduce the number of humans on earth. That is scary. That is really, really scary. And we can see right now, right? It's just what do you call it? A preview or gazette lah. Right? Allah just sent this one type of virus from a family of virus. A coronavirus is a family of virus. Before there was the SARS virus, and now we have this COVID-19 virus. It's just part of the family of that coronavirus. It's not something that humans create. Right? Those are just fantasy stories that people create. Oh, it's been created in the lab. Oh, it's created by the Jews. Nonsense. If the Jews created it, why they kill themselves with that virus? Right? Oh, it is created by Bill Gates. Bill Gates doesn't know about biology. He knows about technology and computers. He's not a biologist in the first place. So all these are nonsense stories that people started to believe in without really researching on the truth of the matter. That COVID-19 is a family of virus. COVID-19 is one. There can be more. It can mutate. There can be more of this virus that comes from bats, comes from animals, come from avians, right? Those birds, right? Those viruses that attack them, that cannot attack us, but somehow they mutate, right? And then they can suit themselves to us, and then they can kill us. This is just a preview. So Allah can send a more virulent virus in the future. We do not know. You know, the Ebola virus, hardly people know about the Ebola virus. It's more dangerous than the, what do you call it, the COVID-19 virus. It's more infectious, many times more infectious. Just touch, You don't have to breathe in. Just touch somebody with the Ebola virus, even though that person has already been dead for a few days. Touch them, the Ebola virus will enter into your skin, and within a few hours, not even one day, you die. Not because of suffocation or what, but you'll die. So, but Alhamdulillah, Ebola virus has been contained in Gambia right now, so it's not being spread. WHO has done a very wonderful job containing the Ebola virus, but that's just another example. So Earth will adjust itself, Allah will decree, hopefully not, but it's not impossible that most of humans will be wiped out in the future. And number of humans will reduce in the future. When number of humans reduce in the future, then there'll be not much economic, activities. Just like right now, you see humans are not flying here and there, so economic activities going down, and so therefore the earth will cleanse itself. And it's not impossible that technology will stagnate. Humans population will go down, and then that will be towards the end of time, and then it will facilitate the control of Dajjal over all humans on earth. Because for Dajjal to control 7 billion humans, it is a very tall order. But if they're just about a few billion or even a few hundred millions of humans left on earth, scattered on earth, it will be easier for this creature, Dajjal, be it human or non-human, we do not know. It might be human and with certain capabilities, or it might not be, it might be another creature we do not know of, right? Be living until now. There is evidence to point to that. And it's easier for this Dajjal to control. And then we have Nabi Isa alayhi salam coming down and kill the Dajjal towards the end of time. And the fighting will take place not using guns, not using missiles, not using jet fighters, tanks, and whatever you have not, but using the medieval weapons, arrows, swords, spears, horses. So what happened to all our technological advances? Something must happen between now and then that cause human population to plummet, to be reduced drastically, and human advance to be wiped out. Something will happen, and we don't know what. Okay? And we hope that we will not meet that era. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. You know, it come too soon. So people say, oh, Dajjal is going to appear, another maybe 50, 60 years time. Who knows? Are you secretary of Dajjal? Do you keep the secret of Dajjal? Of course not. Why are you so eager for Dajjal to appear? Oh, we want Muslims to control the earth. Hello. Before Muslims control the earth, you have to suffer first. You have to go through that fire first. You got to go through that horrible period of Dajjal. Are you prepared to go through that period of Dajjal when Rasulullah SAW taught us to ask Allah protection from the fitna of Dajjal and meeting Dajjal? And you're eager to meet Dajjal, something wrong with your thinking, right? So that's the thing lah. That's what my thinking if I project into the future. When, I do not know. Maybe 100, 200, 500 years, maybe a million years from now. Wallahu alam. Leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's none of our concern. We must not concern ourselves with the great qiyamah. We must concern ourselves with the lesser qiyamah, with that smaller qiyamah. And what's that smaller qiyamah? Our own death. That is nearer to us than the great qiyamah. Concern ourselves with our own death rather than the great death. Our own death is our business. How to prepare. The great qiyamah, the end of time, is Allah's business. So we don't interfere with Allah's business. When it comes, it comes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop here. This is a picture of Snowball Earth, right? I've shown you before. And next week, inshallah, we're going to go into the biological part of the Earth history, the Cambrian explosion. Okay. Stop sharing and see if there's any question or there are questions here. Okay, good questions. Let me see. What's the first question? When the sun rises from the west, does that mean the earth will at that time rotate from east to west? Is that the same as being in retrograde, or are they two separate events? The answer for the second question is they are two separate events. Retrograde motion is not the reversal of the rotation of the planet. Okay, retrograde motion is what we can see from the movement of planet Mars. Because Mars is further away, so we move here, the Earth moves here around the sun is here, the Earth moves around the sun, the Mars is moving, right? Because we are closer to the sun, so therefore we moving faster. So if let's say Mars is here, we are here, right? We'll see Mars moving and we're also moving. So for us, we see that Mars is moving that direction. But then because we move faster, at one point we will overtake Mars. And we see Mars and us at the same point. But then when we overtake Mars, right, Mars is also moving that direction and Earth is moving this direction. Because we are moving faster, we see that Mars is retrograding. It means that it's moving backwards. So we can see that Mars actually from observation is moving this way and suddenly is going back way, right? Because we overtake Mars. So that is the retrograde motion. It's just our perception. It's not about the movement of the planet. All this nonsense message from WhatsApp, whatever, oh, they've discovered, NASA discovered, or the Mars is retrograde and therefore the sun rise from the west. Nonsense stories. Okay, they never learn science. So this is just perceptions, right? So why the sun can rise from the west towards the end of time, and before midday, the Prophet ﷺ said before midday, destruction of the earth will happen, Qiyamah will come. How it happened? It is still open to discussion. It can be that the earth suddenly stop moving and moving the other way. There's no energy right now out there that can reverse the position or the rotation of the earth itself, except if you have a black hole that orbits around the earth in opposite direction. So it pulls the earth away from east to west to east, or west to east to west, the other direction, if there is a black hole. But black hole, before it orbits the earth, it will suck the earth already. The earth will be destroyed. So it can be like that. Or it can be also the reverse polarity of North Pole to South Pole. Because now our magnet is pointing to the north. But then some rather will point to the south in the future. Like before this changing of magnetic pole happens throughout the earth history. So if north becomes south, south becomes north, so east and west also reverse. So the sun still rises from the east, but if you look at the compass, the sun rises from the west because the polarity change. So it might be that we still do not know. Okay. Now the second question is, what about the appearance of Imam Mahdi? Imam Mahdi will appear right before Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Not even a decade before Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Maybe, I'm not sure, right? Because there's no timeline given in the hadith. It might be just a few months within that 1 year. We can say safely within that 1 year of appearance of Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi proclaimed himself as Imam Mahdi and between Rukun and Maqam Ibrahim, that is in the front of Ka'bah's door, and we can all know about that proclamation. And then after that, Dajjal started to attack Imam Mahdi, and then Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Imam Mahdi will lead a contingent of soldiers to Sham. And then Allah, when they want to perform Salat Subuh, Allah will send down Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Nabi Isa will descend from the white minaret of the mosque there. Some say it's the mosque of the Umayyad mosque there. Maybe, we do not know, right? It might be another mosque in the future being built by Muslims there. We do not know. But Imam Mahdi will descend, and then after that, Imam Mahdi will pray Subuh together. Nabi Isa will pray Subuh with Imam Mahdi, and then all of them will go to Palestine, Baitul Maqdis, and that's where Dajjal and his army of the Jews will assemble there. And then Dajjal, once he's going to see Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he run away to the gate of Lut. Nabi Isa alayhi salam will chase Dajjal and kill Dajjal at the gate of Lud. That is another city in Palestine. So it's not that long period. All right. So don't talk about Imam Mahdi right now. Singapore government had planned for more underground train system in the next few years. This is affecting stability of our land. Right, Singapore government had planned for more underground train system in the next few years. Is this affecting the stability of our land? Will it accelerate climate change? I'm not sure. I'm not the researcher. I'm not the project manager, nor am I an engineer for that project. But any activities that we do will surely affect right, the earth itself. So all these tunnels under Singapore, what will happen in the future, we do not know. What will happen if sea level rises to all this underground, we do not know, right? Hopefully we not flood all those underground system, but no 100% assurance. See, it's all open for that. How shall we prepare for our children for future generations of Dajjal? Teach them about Islam, right? Teach them about Quran. Don't let future generations be, buta huruf Al-Quran. When people don't read the Quran, that's where the rahmat Allah SWT will be lifted from them. And continue to practice Islam. That's what we can do. Prioritize Islamic education. Okay, as much as we prioritize the what they call it, secular education or whatever education. So that's my take for it lah. Okay, so I think that's about it. No more question. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you inshallah next week. We continue with our discussion on the biological aspect of human history. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And we end with Tasbih Kafara and Suratul Asr. Subhanakallah bika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asri insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus solihat wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.